Good evening, everyone. You're watching the Cheese Room podcast. As ever, running late, feeling great. That's me. And definitely not HG ranting about Manchester Airport. Good evening to all of our guests this evening, and welcome to you at home. Please do remember, Super Chat are live, so get your questions in. Welcome to all our channel members. We see you. And do get involved tonight. We're going to have a great show. Believe it or not, we won at the weekend. Now, if you read social media, that may confuse you, but we did win, and we've got 10 points from 12. So just to reiterate that point before we start. Gibbo, how are you?
Yep, sound mate. The fields have been ploughed, the corn has been put away, and the combine harvester has been parked up, and I'm ready to talk Spurs, mate.
Excellent. Good. The combine harvester is part. How was your 5 Live appearance anyway? Short
but sweet. I was panicking, sat in my car panicking because I was with my son at football. Thought they were going to ring me about 20 to 12. And it got to about 10 to, and I was panicking. So I texted them. I'm like, nobody's been in touch yet. And they text me back, oh, we'll be with you soon. In about 5.
They were going on about rugby. I was listening to it. No, not rugby. No, not rugby. Sorry, Formula One. And I was like, come on, get on with it. We're right. Yeah, they were going about Formula One.
So they got in touch with me and said quickly then. She asked me a couple of questions. Bearing in mind, on Friday, I spoke to the producer and I must have spent 25 minutes talking about all the stuff they were going to ask me. Then I literally did about 3 or 4 minutes and they spoke to the guy from Forest more than me anyway. So, yeah, it was good though, mate. Putting our name out there. 2 minutes of fame.
I did hear. I even clipped it for you to keep for
Did you?
All the time. Yeah,
I'll never listen to that back again in my life.
Oh, well, it's on our WhatsApp group if you want to know. Yeah. Keep it. Yeah. Something to show the kids when they grow up. Oh, they already are, really, but, you know.
Yeah.
Technically, HG been repatriated successfully. Happy to be back in Vienna.
Very happy to be back in Vienna, although it feels as if the whole city's falling around me right now. But it is good to be home. Like, I know people will always talk about how much time I get off work as a teacher, and 9 weeks every summer, obviously.
It's a joke, yeah.
But yeah, this is the 9th week now, and honestly, I feel like I need a holiday from all the holidays I've had. So it's been a rough one for me.
My heart bleeds for you. Yeah. Okay. Well, good that you'll stop being smug. Mind you, then all I get is texts at 1 p.m. in the afternoon saying, "Just finished work."
Yeah. To be fair, 1 p.m. for you is 2 p.m. for me. It's a whole hour difference.
There we go. Becky, welcome back to the show. How you been keeping? Another teacher who gets ridiculous holidays here.
Yeah, but I'm back on Thursday, so I thought I'll do the show tonight with some wine. I don't normally have alcohol, but I thought it's a bank holiday.
Back to school next week. The alcohol comes out.
Yeah, I may as well just so that I don't get the holiday blues. I'll sit here drinking. But no, I'm good. Good. Yeah, and like you said, we won yesterday. Despite what people might think.
They used to do the whole, 100 likes and I'll down the bottle or whatever.
I'm not doing that. No. Not unless you want more faux pas like yesterday. You just want complete gobbledygook.
I mean, we'll get to that in good time. But first of all, there's 35 of you watching already after 3 minutes. That's great. Please do smash that like button so we can take all the viewers from other channels that might be broadcasting around the same time and get them on here watching the show. Let's talk about the game. Forest. So obviously we won. HG, can you believe we won? I mean, reading social media, you would think the end of the world is nigh.
Do you know what it is? I genuinely think it's because all it does is remind people of Mourinho. I mean, that is it. That run we had with Mourinho where we won 6 games out of 8 and we're top of the league going to Anfield the end of November. And it's different because we all know Conte is a bit nicer than Mourinho and he doesn't throw his own players under the bus like Mourinho did. But, style of play is not really what Spurs fans like to see. So I can understand it a little bit. But, I mean, what does it say in America? Defense wins championships. And we're not conceding many. And if you think about the goals we have conceded, the one for Southampton was a bit of a pot shot. I mean, it was well taken. The one from Koulibaly, he might score 1 in every 20. So it's only really the Reece James goal that was probably poor from us.
And that's because we're pushing.
Yeah, and for him to be wide open in front of Hugo from 10, 12
Still
yards,
inexcusable. But the change in the formation and chasing the game is what really cost us that goal.
A little bit. But outside of that, I don't remember Hugo making too many saves in 4 games. The one from Havertz, and obviously Chelsea will create chances no matter how well you try to defend. But it is very much, I think, that people are like, we all love the fact we've got 10 points. We all love the fact that we're winning games. But I do think there are many, many Spurs fans that remember what it was like at the end of last season when we were winning games comfortably and playing quite well. And we haven't seen that yet.
And a lot of players disgusted we haven't signed Ronaldo and Messi yet, Gibbo.
Yeah, I'm with HG a little bit. I can understand. Well, I don't know if you can understand it, but obviously, I found that quite a hard watch yesterday. I know when you watch it back, we didn't ever. I mean, they kept putting balls over the top, didn't they? Their finishing and final ball was poor, a bit like ours. But we aren't playing very well, and we sort of keep giving the ball away. We don't really keep hold of it. We're not winning these games, and sort of we're controlling the tempo. It feels at times that we're. Yeah. To be fair, that game. But since then, I think Southampton's one of the easiest games I've ever seen Spurs play. But we don't keep hold of the ball very well. We keep giving it away. I sort of never feel like we probably are. We've got them doing what we want to do. We want to sit back and then try and hit on the counter. But I just don't feel at the minute like we're sort of ever in control. And at times last year, we felt like we were more in control. Maybe, that will come when we work into it. But, we won, brilliant, undefeated. But it does feel a little bit sort of like, I felt a bit nervy all through that yesterday, even though really in the end we won it pretty comfortably. It could have been more. If on a good day, I think if our final ball had been better and our decision-making maybe would have been a bit better, could have won that 3 or 4-0.
See, I think a lot of it is down to the fact that a lot of Spurs fans will look at our back three and think, well, Sanchez has got a mistake in him. Dyer's got a mistake in him.
Yes, man.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like all 3 of them for over the years have been, thrown out as being useless. And now suddenly they form a pretty good threesome.
Yeah.
And then you look at our front 3 and everyone thinks that they're all world class and yet they're not really clicking. But I do think that defensively, Spurs fans look at our back 3 and think, we can't keep on keeping clean sheets. Like, it's going to go wrong at some point. And so it would be nice if we didn't do so much defending.
Don't you think, though, that people are just overwhelmingly negative about everything? I mean, the transfer window shit I read, Spurs are playing dull football. It's just
that's because really you read social media.
I just want to.
That's because you read Twitter. That's what it's like on there, isn't it?
I mean, what is wrong with people with 10 points? Yes, we haven't played sexy football, but we know we've got it in our locker. We smashed Arsenal 3-0 not so long ago. We were playing fluid football, weren't we? Battered Norwich at the end of the season. It's just.
But Conte said as well that all the games that we've got results from this year, we didn't get anything from last season. So we went through and didn't we? We lost to Southampton and we lost to Chelsea and we lost to Wolves and Burnley was replaced with Forest, and then matches all this season that we've gained something from. So,
exactly. My man Majestic, massive shout out to Madge. We need to get you on the show soon, mate. We're winning and not playing well. That's the hallmark of any team, isn't it? Becky, tell us what you think about it. We've heard from Gibbo and HG.
Yeah, I'm very positive about Spurs. It wasn't a great first half. The thing that it reminded me of is when I was 15 and I was playing in the girls' team and we got hammered about 9-0, I think it was, and we couldn't get the ball over the halfway line. It just kept coming back and coming back, and it just felt like that yesterday. As soon as certainly in the first half, when Forest had a chance, they didn't necessarily test Lloris, but the ball was going to midfield, and then it was going back, and then it was going to midfield, and it was just like that for ages. And there was the odd kind of time that we had a counter attack, as that time that Son was offside, I think, and when he handballed it. But we never could do the counter attack. So it was just very sort of, and they were getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and then getting closer and closer to the Spurs fans. And then, it was great that we started well. I think had we not started well and been 1-0 up, it would have been even more negative. And the fact that Spurs did have the luxury of being the 1-0 up, and you always kind of felt that there was that opportunity. Kulusevski was playing well, and you just hoped that Son would kind of find some sort of form. And you kind of, I was just thinking when you were talking then, we went behind at Southampton. never at any point did anyone in the ground think, oh, this is it, it's going to be 4 or 5. They always felt that we would come back. And I think even if yesterday had Forest equalised, you did sort of hope that, Spurs had still got the strength and depth and the quality to bring something out of it. And in the end, really, we won fairly convincingly because they should have scored the penalty and it should have been much more than it was. And, Forest played some quite nice stuff, but their final ball wasn't brilliant. And Lloris didn't really have a great deal too. There was that one header in the second half, wasn't there? And he was kind of free and he headed it wide. That was like the.
It's a shame we haven't got Mr. Dorr back on the show tonight because could have let him and HG have at it. I'm pretty sure he would have said they should have scored against us. But what I would say is HG, they had like zero penetration. It looked like they just chucked 11 people on the pitch. There wasn't much fluidity. Attacking, was there?
I mean, I think they actually had quite a lot of fluidity because the front three that they played, with it being Johnson, Gibbs-White and Lingard, they're all mobile, they're all short, and they like to play the ball. The amount of 1-2s those three played successfully, whether it was high up the pitch or close to our goal, it worked for them. But I said I went on one of the Forest things last night, and I said that they do need a central striker. Like, you can have players flit around, but they've got to flit around something. And so, even though there were moments where Dyer didn't really know where to go and Sanchez looked a bit uncertain, if you're not shooting, because if we've seen this when Spurs play, if the opponents are stopping us from getting close to the box and are happy to sit back, like Spurs seemed to do yesterday, then you have to start shooting from distance because that brings players out from where they are. That will bring the defenders out. And in the one shot on target they had was a shot from distance, but after that, it was all a bit too neat. So they're very good at football. They've got some technically great players for us, and I do think they've got the goals in their squad to keep them up easily. But I think they have to play a central striker, and I don't think Brennan Johnson, who was the one yesterday, I don't think he's the one that will do it for them. They need someone with a bit more presence to maybe just give the defence a bit more to think about. Because we've talked about Dyer. He likes to have the play in front of him. He likes to have all the players there because he's not great at looking behind for runners. And they didn't really get behind too much. It was all down the sides into dangerous areas. But when you've got lots of people there to defend the cross, we did that quite comfortably. But I just think, for Spurs fans, we don't want to see other teams have the ball. And that's always a bit weird. We want to, because in theory, you control the game if you have the ball. The other team can't score if you have the ball. And yet, because we play so deep, when we're giving it to Sanchez and to Emerson and to Dyer deep in our own half, at some point we're all thinking it's going to go wrong. So it's a bit of a dilemma right now as to what we're going to do.
Well, starting 11, Son started the game again. No sign of Richie. I'm just reading the comments. Matt says, anyone criticising Richarlison changing their mind? Madge, without Richie, we didn't get a result against Chelsea and possibly Forest. I'm loving him. Richie, Kerry King there straight in as well. Richarlison should have started that game, should he, Matt? What was your thoughts? I wanted to see him start either the West Ham game or the game at Forest. Really didn't bother me, Rich, but I think they need to rotate.
I wasn't against. If Richarlison had started, I'd have been happy. I wasn't sure if he would. I thought he might play Son. But I don't see any problem if we had have taken Son out of the team and started Richarlison. We've got Sonny has had, by his standards, a poor start to the season. He's had periods of fallow periods before, but we've never been able to sort of pull him out the firing line. We've got an opportunity now. We've got a guy we paid 50, 60 million for, chomping at the bit. I thought get him out there and get him at him. It worked in the end. Son played and Richarlison came on and sort of changed the game a bit for us. But yeah, I would have been all up for him starting. I don't think we can sort of, it's like, in the week, you can't drop Sonny, you can't do this, you can't do that. He's been great for it. Yeah, he has great. He'll still be great for us. He'll be great for the rest of the season. But at the minute, he's not playing that well. So get someone else in. But we've got to get out of this mindset of we can't not play Son or we can't not play. There's going to be times where we maybe don't have to play Kane, so we can give him a rest. Well, that's where we want to be, and that's what
we're not used to that, though, are we? We're not used to that. We're not used to a situation where we've never been had that opportunity. So if Kane's going through a bad patch, we know Kane will play the next game, and it's just kind of hoping that he'll kind of come out of it. And it's the same with Son. And we've never been in that situation where if you don't, it is quite ruthless now. If you don't perform, you're not playing. And it's those of us that are, it just feels a little bit harsh.
But I've said this, sorry, HG, I've said this when, this isn't like a Poch loving, but under Poch, when Sonny sort of first started playing for Spurs, when he first started to like show what he can do, we had Ericsson, we had Dele, I think like Chadley was there at the time doing all right. And we had some, we had a half decent squad then, but Sonny used to have games where he didn't play very well then. But what Poch did really well was he'd bring him out and he'd put him on the bench, he'd bring him on and he'd score a goal. Then he'd start him on the bench again. He'd sort of do the same, come on and play well. And then he'd play him into form and he'd come in and he'd have that little run where he scored goals. So that used to happen before. It just got to a point where him and Kane were sort of like undroppable for us. But now we're getting to that point where we want players, we need to be able to bring them in and out. And if Son's not playing well and we've got a guy like Richarlison who can come in and do hopefully just as good or give us something different we need, then we've got to be able to do that. And we've got to sort of get used to it.
There's a comment here that I'd like to bring up because I totally agree with this. Like 23 goals in a season, you can't knock it, right? None of us will knock the fact that he scored lots of goals for us, joint Golden Boot winner, all the rest of it. But I do believe that the way that Conte wants to play, where the front three often get the ball with their back to goal and they have to hold the ball up or try and make. There's lots of those kind of intricate short passes where Bentancur runs this way and then Perisic is going to go around the side, and we haven't seen that much this season. But I do think a lot of it's because the front three have not really been able to do that, and Son has been the worst of the front three. Like Kulusevski's obviously scored goals against Southampton early on, and Kane has got a lot since. But Son hasn't really been involved in that, and the general play is a massive part of what we do. If the ball gets played up to our front three, they have to be able to not only hold the ball up, but find a teammate. And we just haven't been able to do it. Now, again, that's not Son's best thing. Like we talk about when Son was really good, he's often played as a winger. He likes to have the ball and likes to run at players. And we've seen him do that so often for Spurs. But the way that Conte sets up, it doesn't really suit what Son does. Son is a brilliant finisher. The chance he almost scored yesterday would have been an incredible goal. It was absolutely just, inches over the bar. But that's pretty much all we saw from him in an attacking sense, bar the handball that Becky talked about earlier. Yeah. And we need to find a way to progress the ball up the pitch. And if Son can't do that, and Richarlison can, for whatever reason, then there's a reason why lots of people want Richarlison to start.
And it's not just HG, is it, that like he's missing chances or whatever? It's not that. It's like this comment. It's his all-round play that's poor. His touch is off, and like when he controls the ball, it seems to sort of like stay behind him, and he's not, when you see him in full stride, sometimes he knocks it in front of himself and he's away, but it's just getting stuck under his feet. So it's everything about his game at the minute is just not what it should be. And I think, like Paul said in the comments, his reaction when he come on, I think it's like as if now is he going to start feeling sorry for himself, or is he going to, or he's got to sort of just like get his chin up and get on with it and fight for his place.
I don't know, really. Who knows, to be honest. I think his reaction was probably frustration with himself. But he knows that Richarlison's breathing down his neck, doesn't he? And ultimately, Rich is in there to provide that competition for places. That's exactly what Conte wants. Rich is going to get tons of football. There's plenty of games, isn't there?
We need more strikers. Forget the four that we've got. We need more. When you put up the team, right? You put up the team, and we had Richarlison on the bench, and before him was Bissouma, who's a defensive central midfielder. Like, you might claim that Sessegnon can play up front, and we saw Spence come on and show he's got pace, but none of them are attackers. We need at least, even with Lucas and Brian or whoever might be around, I think we need at least one more, and probably two if Brian goes, because like if we're going to play a front three, then you want to have 5 or 6 that you can trust, and I don't know if we have that.
You need 6, really, don't you?
Well, you need one spare for every position, don't you? In theory.
The thing is, like, I'm pretty certain that Conte thinks that Lucas can be one of those players. I would disagree with that. I don't think Lucas is good enough to do that role. I don't think he's good with his back to go either. And that's what we need from our front three. To me, it's no coincidence that when all these attacking players that we're being linked with, a lot of them are big players. Zaniolo is 6 foot. Malinovsky is quite a big guy.
Everyone we've signed 6 foot plus.
Yeah, Carrasco is a big guy. Like, I mean, obviously, it helps to be big if you want to hold the ball up. That's not a slight on shorter people, but it's just that's where we want to be going. And so even though Son is 6 foot, he's not wide. He's a tall, kind of wiry player, and it doesn't suit him. Right? You give him chances in front of goal, he will score them. We've seen that. Left foot, right foot, he can score from anywhere. But if we're playing deep and he's getting the ball inside his own half with a giant centre back right on him, like Worrell was yesterday, it's no wonder Son doesn't look good, because he knows it's just not what he's good at. That's not his game.
No, I'd agree.
And when he's lacking confidence, he's not going to beat that player and take him on. He's becoming quite hesitant, isn't he? And that kind of split second is.
You know, when he was through 1-on-1 and it was obviously offside, but he didn't know that at the time, and keeper saved it, didn't he? And that just shows his confidence level right now, because a confident Son, the keeper's is getting nowhere near it.
And Son's always been streaky. I mean, even when it was 4-2-3-1 with Poch, he's always been quite streaky. But it's like I don't think Son is playing badly per se. I think the system doesn't always suit him, and that's not a negative. It's just where we are. Like, you know, we saw the game at Chelsea where we changed things around and went 4-4-2. Richarlison came on and played up top with Kane, with Son going to kind of left wing.
HG, can I ask you? Do you think the system's changed from last season then?
Changed. Like, I think
he was clinical, wasn't he? He obviously scored lots of goals last season.
I think the biggest difference than what we've seen is that the teams that we've played so far this season have dominated midfield areas, and because our front three haven't been able to beat the 3 defenders they're up against, the ball's come back, and it's been most of the game in our half. If the front three can win those battles, then everything moves forward, and he'll come more into his own. If he's on the edge of the box and you just need to shift it half a yard, he can find the corner. So I think it's almost more to do with who we're playing. You know, we've got West Ham. We know that they tend to play off. I mean, what did they do yesterday? Was it 3 at the back? I think they went 3 at the back.
Yeah, they did.
With Rice and Souček. But I don't know where they're going to go. I think every team that's playing Spurs will probably want to flood the midfield, because we are struggling to get out of that. And I think, weirdly, the only way we've been able to do it is when we've kept 2 up top. And we've said to teams, you have to be careful, because Son can get round the back and Kane has the ability to find him no matter what, even if they're the only 2 who are up top. The 3 that we're doing just leaves Bentancur and Højbjerg with too much to do. And I think that's probably the biggest difference, that the teams we're playing against have recognised what works.
It's slightly strange that there's 0 tactical flexibility. It's like the system is the system, and that's all we're doing. So it'd be interesting to see how that progresses as the season goes on.
We could switch to a 4-4-2 with the starting lineup that we had. I mean, that's the thing. Like, you can put Kane and Son up top as the 2, have Perisic as the left winger and Kulusevski down the right. Nothing would change, because we know Royal is probably more comfortable as a right back, and Davies has played many years at left back. So it would work really well, but it does appear that that's not Conte's thing. He's quite happy to allow things to go as they are, and
he went
4-4-2
at Chelsea, didn't he?
Sorry,
4-4-2 at Chelsea when we were under the cosh.
When we were 1-0 down and we needed to change things up. But when you're 1-0 up, why change it? I'm sure that's what Conte thinks.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Do you think this is a slight issue, this comment? I mean, I wouldn't say that's on Conte. Maybe that's on the players. But I do watch that, and I think sometimes we get the ball and we just sort of amble up the pitch with it. And where players play, what we sort of used to do is knock it about a bit, get it into Kane, he'd turn, knock it into that space, and Sonny would be away, or Kulusevski. But we do seem a lot slower at the minute with our play, the way we're sort of just knocking it round. We don't seem to be as fluid as we were at times last season. Do you think
Paul made the comment earlier that this kind of slow start is possibly a kind of longevity thing? I said exactly the same thing to my Dave yesterday and said, Conte's clever enough to realise that we've got 60-odd games this season, and that we don't want to necessarily burn out in these early sort of lesser fixtures. That they're playing like that, and don't get me wrong, we're very lucky that we are conceded.
Stop slamming the monitor right now. Lesser teams. Oh
well, but rather than kind of we are being very lucky that we aren't going in having conceded and da. But is it an actual ploy that when we need them? I made the comment yesterday on Twitter about the World Cup. When we need these players in March and April, this sort of slowish sort of start and the mentality, and like you just said, they're not kind of, oofing it up and that kind of counter-attacking kind of play and becoming more sort of assured with the ball and all. Is it actually, on purpose for the longevity of the season? I think it's an interesting question.
I'm not sure, Becky, because like from watching it from a real sort of simple point of view, it seems like when we played Wolves the same and against Forest, they go out there and they do what they're doing, that slow progression of the ball, and we keep losing the ball and stuff like that, a bit like we did at Wolves. And it's as if they have to go in at half time, Conte put a rocket up them, and then they come out and they do start knocking it about a bit quicker and seem to have a bit more purpose about them. That's how it feels for me when I'm watching.
But do you not think that
that's on the players? That's on the players.
Do you not think he's saying for it to be like that? Have the first sort of 30 minutes, 35 minutes at a kind of
he's going
a different way. Yeah, but that might be a ploy.
It may be. It may well be. I don't think. I'm not sure it is. I think the players go out and they just don't do what he's asked to do.
You have to find your form sometimes, don't you? You have to find your form sometimes, and all teams will go through a season where they're hot and they're cool.
Yeah.
Even City, and we've seen that already, and Liverpool. So the reality is, I think it's quite good that we're getting away with it at this stage because we know there is tons more to come from Spurs. I think Paul's hit the nail on the head here. We are a team that plays counter and transition. We're not breaking quick enough, and there does seem to be a bit of an issue with the passage of play taking too long.
Can I just go? I mean, Paul's right by saying that we're not breaking. I think they showed one example yesterday where we did break at pace. We had all 4 or 5 sprinting to get forward.
Sprint, yeah.
But that was it. That was the one chance. This comment here from Tom G is exactly it. If you're playing Spurs right now, who are the danger men for Spurs? You've got our front three.
Perisic,
and that's it.
Maybe
Perisic, maybe.
Perisic gets it. Players, he takes players on though, doesn't he? He commits. He's committing players.
But you've got to get him up the pitch, which we haven't been able to do. So the Perisic has a quality cross on him. We've seen that already. He beat Nico Williams a couple of times. I mean, even for the penalty, that was Perisic going down the wing and lifting it into the box. But I mean, Tom's absolutely right. Like, we don't have enough players right now that scare the opposition. They know they can flood midfield, starve us of the ball. And it's, we had plenty of opportunities yesterday to score more than the 2 that we got. When we were countering it was just the 3 of them. They made some awful decisions. But it's just, I don't know. I think teams feel confident that that's the best way to play us. Like, yes, our front 3 can hurt them, but the best way to do it is to stop them getting the ball. And it's quite easy to do that with Spurs right now.
Yeah. I agree. I think it is slow. It is slow. Like, I know he's picked out Emerson there, but obviously Emerson is decent at the.
We picked out Emerson before, Gibbo, because in the last game he slows everything down. Like, you do see us break at pace occasionally, and unfortunately Emerson is. I'm not digging out Emerson, by the way. No. I like Emerson, but he is a right back. He's not a right wing back, and unless he can learn to transition the ball with pace. It's ponderous when he gets into the final third.
But I don't think your mate, if he come in, Doherty would help with that. Maybe we could knock longer balls up to him, but Emerson's getting it and moving up the pitch, sort of into areas where he could cross.
I think you're wrong, and I
don't think he would. I don't think any of the right wing backs.
The difference is with Doherty is he runs in behind people, so he gives them something to think about, something to track, drags people out of position for Kulusevski. Emerson don't do that. You know what Emerson's going to do. He's very one-dimensional because he's right
he's
back.
A defender. Yeah.
I'm not
I do feel for him.
He is what he is.
And the crazy thing is, we have to remember, when we bought Emerson, it was to play right back in a back 4, but he still had to be the attacking width. Like, we played very narrow central midfield 3 and a very narrow front 3. So it is weird because he clearly doesn't really know what to do when he's going forward. And he's got no faith in himself to get round his man. And so, although he's quite comfortable and he likes, I think I saw one point yesterday where he was almost playing as a centre forward. He just drifted in, and we had the ball further up the pitch. And you're thinking, I'm not being funny, but that's not really your job. And if anyone's going to do that, I want Doherty to do it, like Matt said, and like Calder said. Doherty is more capable of making those runs that give the opponent defence something to think about.
He has quite a bit of the ball, Emerson, doesn't he? As well, he gets quite a bit of the ball out there. And literally, I said the other week, which is probably not nice of me to say, but like Emerson is where possession goes to die, like Lucas.
But again, our whole right side of the defence. Like if Romero's not playing, if you're playing against us, fine. Press high on the left-hand side because Davies can pass it. Perisic is good enough. But on the right-hand side, let them have all day because they don't have the ability to hurt you.
And that is why I know you say a lot of people thinking Spence was going to come in and be first choice. But I think, mate, that is why a lot of people did think that, because he does attack and he does get forward. Obviously, we've seen him do it, and I know it's a different level. But I think that is why a lot of people did think that, because obviously Emerson has done fine. He's been fine. But he's not what we were thinking, a right wing back. That's not what we're thinking Conte wants his right wing backs to do. We're looking at Spence and saying what this guy's been doing for Forest is what Conte wants his right wing back to do for Spurs, and I think that's why people did think he would come in and maybe have a better crack of the whip. I know it's only been 4 games, but
I mean, he came on as well, which was nice to see him making a debut. But just on this, we may as well cover this off right now. Carrasco, any thoughts? HG's got lots of thoughts on Carrasco, so off you go, HG.
Lots of thoughts on him. Look, every time I've seen him play, I've not been impressed. So as much as Conte has, form for taking a failed winger and making them into a pretty good wing back, I think that's where, like, the idea that Carrasco could be a Kulusevski rotation piece, I don't really see that. So it's a weird one. Like, I for the money that apparently Atletico Madrid want, I'm certainly not interested. But as a player anyway, I've not been massively impressed with him. And so it's, given the options that I've seen us linked with, I would much rather have Malinovsky. But that's just me.
Over 100 people watching. I'm sure you're enjoying the debate as much as we are. There's 41 likes on the board, which means 50% of you, over 50% of you, have not hit that like button. Come on, guys. Please hit that like button. Don't make me get Matt get his combine harvester out on you. I mean, look, I don't know anything about the guy. It won't shock you to know, so I can't really offer an opinion on it. But what I have seen, £60 million tells me there's absolute release fee. Tells me there's absolutely no way we're signing him. No chance. I'd be surprised. We're going to sign someone, though, aren't we? I mean, you see the...
Well, the thing is, though, have you heard today that because possibly Bentancur's got concussion and something else about Tanganga, that Tanganga's not going and then Saha's not going. And you're like, oh, so that's possibly 2 outs, and there would have been maybe some replacements, and they're saying that they're now going to remain. So that's sort of
I think they were trying to shift Tanganga all window, and the reality is the deal's just not there.
Tanganga doesn't go. His career's going nowhere.
I agree. I'm pleased Saha is staying because I think I want to see him get some. Just spend the season with the squad would be good. I think and sort of get used to the Premier League. There
was that one comment, wasn't there, saying that the Guilt one was 99% done or something, and they were just waiting for the replacement.
Gattuso said that, Becky, didn't he?
And we've not heard anything since, have we?
No, so it's like Gattuso was it quoted from him? Basically saying that we will get Hill, but once Spurs have signed his replacement, they're 99% sure of what they're doing. So do you think we're just messing around and then Thursday, Wolves, 10 million, we'll have Traore off you?
When you see all these players linked, like, do you not think Paratici's just doing these standard smokescreen tactics and then something will come out of nothing? Like, this is what's happened. This is what's happened time and time before with Paratici. So I think when we're second guessing it, we don't know who it's going to be. We've seen Daniel James this week. I mean, who the hell thought Daniel James would be in the frame for a move to Spurs? I mean, seriously, can you imagine that? I can't. I'd be amazed if Daniel James signs for us. But
I mean, and the thing is, that's not even a believable rumor.
No,
like a lot of them, Carrasco to me is believable because he offers that profile of player that Conte clearly likes.
Yeah,
but I the way that Kulusevski plays, the fact that he's mostly left-footed, but he's comfortable holding the ball up, I do think we're going to want someone who can do that, maybe with a bit more pace. Now, that might be difficult to find, although I see Adrian, lots of pace on Traore. But I just, there is an option out there. I don't know who it is, but you have to think that whatever the plan A is, maybe we don't know it yet.
HG, like in your opinion, obviously you've seen a lot more of him. Carrasco's played wing back, hasn't he, at times? I'm not saying you like him, but if you put yourself sort of in Conte's position, could you see Perisic on as one wing back and him as the other? Could you see his thought process being that if the rumours are true that we're after him?
Look, I think we'd definitely be more threatening going forward if that was the case. But to me, Carrasco, if he came in, would be kind of what Lucas is. The kind of all-purpose attacking midfielder that could probably play both sides if necessary and maybe do a job at wing-back if necessary. But I don't... it's kind of... To spend a lot of money to replace Lucas on a 28, 29 next week year old, no. Like, if you're going to spend the money to replace Lucas, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But just not Carrasco. And I don't think that... like if he came in and started every game, we've seen with Conte, like he's clearly not starting those players that he signed in the summer already because he's been happy to go with last season's players. And he said, I think yesterday, that now that the games are playing in midweek, it's a chance to rotate people in and out. But he wanted those players to spend more time learning the system on the training pitch rather than in games. I genuinely don't know who might come in to become that first choice right wing back, since Conte seems to love people who he's worked with before. Maybe we have to look there somewhere. It's a strange one, but Carrasco just for the money is a no for me.
Ashley Young.
Yeah, how old's Victor Moses?
I was going to say he's 32. Not, is he?
But yeah, like it's like everyone knows that our perfect solution would be Hakimi, but that's not going to happen. But there aren't many right wing backs out there that offer that threat. And if Spence has the pace that we've seen he has, I can understand why people are screaming for something different. But we thought towards the end of last season when Doherty and Kulusevski started up at Leeds, I think that was their first game together, and both of them scored within the first 15 minutes, and we went on a run of winning games relatively comfortably with those two, that when he got injured, he got shunted out to the left, and then when he got injured, it was a case of, well, can you not look at how these players were working together? I don't think it's because we were playing bad teams. I think that Doherty and Kulusevski do work quite well together down that side, and I'd like to see it happen again. Maybe not West Ham, but the Fulham game, I think that's a possibility.
I mean, Doherty at Leicester away, he was transformative in that game. I genuinely think he would add a lot to our attack, but I agree we've got a huge problem on the right. Saha from Watford, decent option. Would you take him, Matt?
Well, I think what I've seen of him, he looks quite good, but I don't know if he's one of these players who can sort of blow hot and cold. But when I've seen him play a few games, he's looked quite positive. He's quick. But but obviously he's been doing that for Watford, stepping up to the level we need him to be at. I'm not sure if he'd fit that. The one who I quite like, and I think I'm in a minority, I quite like Zaha from Palace. I think he could come in.
I mean, why do you think you're in a minority?
Well, when we were linked with him before we got Kulusevski and stuff like that, people, I don't want him.
I think it's because they thought we would never buy that type of player, and then we bought Spence and Basuma and Richarlison, and now it's like, okay, actually, maybe we do now. It wasn't the type of kind of Spurs kind of sought after player, and that's changed now. I think
he's the type of guy who could come in if there were injuries and he had to play for a period of time. Bearing in mind he gets injured a bit. But I think he is a decent player. I think he can add that type of, Richarlison's got that sort of like little nasty streak in him. And I think Zaha would have that as well and get stuck in when you need him to. But I do think he's a better player than he's given credit for.
Zaha's a points machine in the fantasy league. That's all you need to know. That means every season he gets assists and goals.
Yeah, and I think he probably would fancy one big move. I know his age and probably the money that Palace want for him, but I'm sure he could be. We could persuade him, and then if we'd have maybe made a move a bit earlier, I think he'd be decent. But someone's putting here he's an Arsenal fan. Doherty's an Arsenal fan. I don't think that really matters when
money's at stake.
Yeah, exactly. You could probably get a decent move to Spurs, but I think he'd be a great signing for the squad.
Fan. You wouldn't think it the way he plays.
No, but I think Zaha would be a decent signing. I really do.
I agree. I think he'd be a very good option, but I can't see it happening. The trouble is now, and this is the bit where this is what frustrates me. I'll have my little rant. when you read on social media, we should go after Zaha, we should go after this player, we should go after this player. The problem is, with 5 days, right, away from the end of the transfer window, clubs have got to replace these players. There's no way Crystal Palace are just going to go, all right, then, sign Zaha. He's our best player, you know?
But he's going to go on a free next year, isn't he? And
but a number of things can happen. He may well choose to extend his contract.
Yeah.
He may well be worth more to them this season just by keeping him than letting him go for 20 million quid.
Like if I'm Zaha, like I'm clearly the king of the whatever at Palace. Like everyone loves him. He knows he's going to be a club legend, and I don't think any Palace fan would begrudge him if he did move on a free.
But isn't that where he's like Richarlison though? Because that was very similar for Richarlison, wasn't he? He was loved there.
It's true, but I just feel that like for Zaha, I mean, when you're talking about the money, like he'll get paid if he leaves now, but he'll get paid a lot more if he leaves next summer. And so why not wait? Why not do a season at Palace where he's going to play with, was it Eze and Olisa and Edouard? I mean, the players around him now are so much better than what he's been used to. Yeah. I think there's a reason. That's the reason more than anything why his output seems to have increased. Is that he's now playing with better players, and Jordan Ayew as well. But yeah. So I just think for Zaha, he's almost 30, I think.
Yeah.
He does it last season at Palace. He'll get them top half, and then I suspect he may well make the move down the road to the Goons because that seems to be where he would like to go, and I think he would suit them as well with how they play. So I understand the logic for it, but I just think that Zaha's probably not going to happen for Spurs. And if we do want someone like Paul said at the beginning, Ismaila Sarr from Watford. I don't know what the deal was with Villa, how much it was. 25, 30 million maybe?
Was it personal terms, it all foul?
Maybe, but like
pieces.
It's one of those that Ismaila Sarr never really did it consistently in the Premier League. He did it sometimes. But I think in this point, we're either going to be buying young potential who hasn't really done it, or we're going to look for an experienced player who's done it somewhere else. Pick your poison there. But I wouldn't be upset with Sarr because you'd be hoping that something would come from it. And again, he fits that profile.
It's going to be Traore, isn't it? It's going to be
Well,
Traore.
the thing is,
It's
interesting.
I'm happy with.
Yeah, and I was the same thing. When people this afternoon were saying it was going to be Dan James, I was like, well, I'll have Traore then. Because even I know who Dan James is. It was like, well, I'll have Traore. You know what I mean? Everyone last week was like, no, not having Traore. But then when you suggest somebody would, then we'll have Traore.
I find Traore.
The two I've seen today, right? St. Maximum, there's no way he's leaving the Newcastle in the next 5 days. Like none, 0 chance. Forget about it. Saha.
Can we not find a left-footed St. Maximum around Europe? There has to be one.
I said this HG about the right wing back when people are like, "Who are we going to sign then at right?" And I said, "There's got to be there's players out there. You've got all these scouts. There are players out there who can do these roles that we're after. There must be."
Yeah,
is that why Arsenal seem to be buying all these left-footed attacking midfielders to stop everyone else doing it? I don't know.
But but if we got having Traore and Lucas in the same squad could be very frustrating. If Lucas were to go and you brought Traore in, I could be like
a better player than Lucas. For goodness,
that's what I'd bring. Well, that's what I'm saying. Both, if you had one or the other, if you sold Lucas, you'd probably get your money back and a bit more. And then Traore comes in and pretty much does the same sort of job. Maybe not.
I'm not sure about that, to be honest. I think everyone underrates him, Traore, and maybe I overrate him slightly, but I think
probably somewhere in the middle, mate.
He gives you a different option.
Defenses would back off him.
Yeah,
100%. He scares the shit out of defenses. Yeah. He picks up the ball. Tackling him is very difficult, right? He's tackling him. I'm just reading Paul's comment. Yeah. Tackling him is very difficult, and physically, he's going to push you off the ball. He'll get you up the pitch. He's an option. That's all. But Twitter knows best. What can I say?
If Adama doesn't cost that much, it's a harmless throwaway signing. right?
But wasn't he last year? Sorry to interrupt. Wasn't he offered to us, and he said he didn't want to come? You know, this whole business about how he was going to. Yeah, and that's not changed though. Hasn't changed though. He's still going to be playing right wing back. So you know, that's the thing. If he was offered it and he didn't want to come, nothing's changed in 6 months.
I think if Traore came now, I'd be much more inclined to have him do the Kulusevski role, even though he's not left-footed. And I made a thing about him being left-footed. The fact that he could, you know, I believe that he'll be able to hold the ball up and scare defenders. Defenders they can't get tight to him because they know he'll burn them for pace.
Or they'll slip off him.
Yeah, if they're 5 yards behind him, then he's got time to control it after the third touch. So
you know the reason he wears all that baby oil now, don't you? I've told you the story of that.
Because he's a vet on the side, is he?
No, because he kept getting a dislocated shoulder. Almost every game he was getting a dislocated shoulder. The reason was because people were hanging off his arm, pulling his arm all the time. Hence, it was a recurring injury that caused him a load of problem. The novel solution was the baby oil, which is actually quite clever. So there you go. It's not just for looks and, you know, to impress Terry King.
It's the attacking midfielder version of Peter Cech's skull cap. It's there to protect him. Okay.
There's a troll in the chat called Troy. I think he's an Arsenal fan. I'm just going to leave him there.
Yeah.
Fine. It's fine.
Top of the league, though, weren't they, Arsenal? Top of the league after 4 games.
I mean, they've played 4 massive teams, haven't they? So,
and we were top of the league last year, so it doesn't prove anything.
No.
Yeah, there's a long way to go. But I will say this about Arsenal, that they're getting the results and they're playing quite well. But the result they got on Saturday was a bit fortunate. Right, I mean they outplayed Fulham, but it was a 89th minute winner, whatever it was.
They were fortunate against Palace, I thought as well. To be honest.
I didn't see that game, so full credit to them for winning games because that's what it's about.
Yeah,
but you know, it's like as we'll see, I think with the big 6 this year. Okay, big 5. You've got to Man United don't really count, but those games will mean a lot because I think that. The big 5 as they are, or the big 6 as they are, actually have a pretty good chance of beating the other teams relatively often, and it will mean a lot more. The fact that Liverpool dropped points against Fulham and Palace and then lost to Man United is huge, even though we're only 4 games in. I really believe that. Man City have dropped points once, we've done it once, but dropping points at Chelsea doesn't feel like dropping points, does it?
No, that's gaining points.
Yeah.
Well. If we go back to the game just briefly, we will come back to transfers. I've kind of gone completely off on a tangent, but it's all right. We like tangents.
Kane, we haven't talked about Kane. Let's talk about Kane. Let's wind the Arsenal fan up to talk about Kane.
Did he miss-hit that goal?
Yes.
Well,
I said straight away, it looked like the Burnley penalty. So you remember the Burnley penalty where it kind of bobbled across the grass? It was very similar to that. So the fact that I actually thought he'd missed because he didn't really celebrate and Henderson didn't move and nobody seemed to kind of really quite know what had happened.
There you go, Troy. This is what a world-class striker looks like. You've probably not seen one at Arsenal for a while. I mean, that was that. And then what do we think of this then? So this is the other thing to discuss. Yellow card for this wonderful... I mean, I can't quite believe that the guy wasn't sent off, Gibbo. No. It's got to be denied. I mean, Kane was going to just knock that in, wasn't he?
I think the penalty was harsh. No, mate, it's a joke. It's a joke, that is. I mean, the guy behind it, they're trying to say that Kane might not have got there. The reason he wouldn't have got there is look, the bloke behind him's pushing him in the back. So, that is a penalty and a red card all day long. And
it took them so long. And I said this yesterday when we were watching it. Is that Kane is used to taking a long time. If you remember the Colombia penalty for England, when they were scuffing the penalty spot up, weren't they? Kane's experienced enough to have to wait a long time to take a penalty.
He missed that though, Becky. He said like you said about the goal, he said he missed the penalty as well because he tried to put it high. Yeah. He usually goes that side and he tried to put it high. So, he missed that as well.
But he said afterwards, didn't he? That he said if he didn't know if that wasn't a red card, he didn't know what was, or if it was stopping a goal scoring opportunity. So again, but the officials took so long to come to that decision.
That is just embarrassing. Sorry, HC.
It's all right. The question here is, why is Steve Cook putting his hand up And the answer is to stop a goal-scoring opportunity. Like, so whose definition are we using? If we're not using the player who's done it deliberately, but we're going to use Stuart Atwell, whoever the VAR was that said, "Oh, I don't think Kane's going to head it in." Does that mean if Moussa Sissoko's running through, I can hack him from behind because we all know he's not going to score? So just give me a yellow card. It's not a red card. It's illogical that he can sit there and say, "Well, I don't think it was a goal-scoring opportunity because I don't think he'd have got there," when the defender who was right there clearly did. It's a nonsense, absolute nonsense. That wasn't a red card.
Yeah. And Adrian said in the chat as well that Henderson was off his line. He completely jumped off his line. And I remember when he played for Shrewsbury, he used to do very similar because Joe Hart used to do it as well. And there used to be a lot of that to kind of be retaken. Yeah. So again, he dives off his line, and they hope that the fourth official or the people on the line won't notice it. And again, he bounced off his line, and that gave him that again a little bit more.
I mean, he got away with it really there, but I mean, it was a pretty crap penalty.
It was a shit penalty.
Really, really nice height for a keeper. If you get
down the middle,
but referees, they have these periods, don't they? Like you're saying about him coming off his line, Becky. They'll have a period where they'll pull someone up for it, and then it'll happen a few times. Yeah. And then,
maybe now it's kind of people
it'll probably happen
about that, and it'll happen now. Yeah.
But like,
it didn't matter because we won.
It don't matter. That's a penalty and a sending off all day long.
Completely agree. And they'd laugh about it afterwards. I can guarantee if we'd have not won that game, there's no way Kane would be laughing about that penalty afterwards. But there you go.
Talking about Son as well, I saw a comment today saying that should Son have taken it, and I'm a Sonny lover and went, no, Kane takes penalties, not Son.
Yeah. Second goal, obviously, how good was that ball in from Richarlison is the question I'm going to ask you, HG. That's what he's been bought for, isn't it? Changed the game. Son had a little bit of a strop, but my God, Richarlison changed the game. I know we've touched on it already. Again, coming on. But the ball over, outside of the boot, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I know it was. I do agree with you, but I was more impressed with the fact that he went and got it. Right, because a lot of players wouldn't have done. I mean, we should have scored anyway. Sessegnon got the cross all wrong. Should have played it to Kane far earlier than when he tried. But whereas Sessegnon's got his head in his hands and he's looking in the stands, and Richarlison and Kane haven't finished. Right, like Richarlison's gone to get the ball, and Kane's decided, right, I'm going to stand here because the defense had given him up. So it's to me that goal said more about Richarlison's desire to get the ball. The fact that he played a wonderful pass with the outside of his right foot is amazing and great, but we don't often have players that can marry the desire and the quality. You know, we've had players who showed desire and not much else, but to have the desire to get it and then the ability to do what he did, it's great.
Sess was very bad on that play. He had a shocker, didn't he? He should have released that ball much earlier.
And did you see Kane's reaction? Kane was properly like that.
And thought, oh, hang on, there might be something.
Wake up, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good moment, and of course, then the Keepy-uppys followed. Bit of a disaster, really, for the Nottingham Forest lot.
Yesterday has gone down in history, hasn't it? Because of the awful Keepy-uppy incident of 2022.
Yeah. I mean, all three of them. All three Keepy-uppys.
Carrasco did have some things to say about it, but you know what? There we go.
Cry more. Jamie,
did you see? Did you see? Richarlison also tweeted Carragher and cry more.
and Diddy Haman was piping in about it as well, saying it should have been a ungentlemanly conduct. I think is the phrase he used. You're like, what?
Do you get offended if players do that against Spurs? Do you think, oh, that can't be happening? That's not allowed. That's just taking the because to me, again, I've not been in England for many years, really, but I just look at that and think,
you never mentioned.
There's 10 minutes of the game left. There's no one around him. Why the heck not? You know, it wasn't flicking the.
Or sitting on
fingers at everyone while he was doing it.
Sitting on it.
It makes me laugh. He's literally, the ball's come to him. He's literally done 3 Keepy-uppys, passed it to someone, then gone to get it back, one of their players has absolutely nailed him and got a yellow card. He's literally got exactly what he wanted from that situation. And like I said, my dog could do 3 keepy-uppys. That is not showboating. Three keepy-uppys.
Imagine being an Arsenal fan going on a Tottenham pod and writing nonsense like this. What does that say about your life?
He obviously doesn't understand that the only way to beat Spurs is if Nuno's in charge, and he's gone. He's gone.
But
Absolutely.
going back to Richarlison, though, but he said the same thing, and you've asked me this about whether we wanted to sign him, and I've read a lot of this today and yesterday about how everyone has said this is the player that you hate when they don't play for you, and you love when he plays for you. And there was that incident where he kind of got a bit of a groin strain as well, didn't he, near Conte, and he sort of went down for a bit, and he got the goal. He knew the game was being slowed down, and he was kind of past that process. But yeah, the fact that it's great that it's wound up all these players. How he would be in the West Ham game is my next question, because if he does start, he's got to kind of put a lid on it. We've had discussions here about Romero and about how many bookings Romero was getting and all of that sort of thing. Richarlison's 5 minutes in a game that is over, but when it's a tight game and there's tackles like that coming flying in, and
I don't think he does it, though. I agree. I know what you're saying. I don't think he does it. I think it's just sort of like he just wanted to sort of waste time and take some of the clock up and draw a foul.
And I get that. And that worked for yesterday. And I loved it just as much as everybody else. So I'm not having a go at him, but I'm now kind of thinking to West Ham and thinking, how does he kind of put a lid on that and use it use that kind of aggression in the right way and that kind of mentality?
I just think you see, I think on Wednesday, if Richarlison starts, I just think you see a guy who will be chomping at the bit to go, be given a hook and give like what he did in the corner, like HG said. I think that's what you'll get from him. I think the keepy-uppys, and that's a bit of bravado and just, we're winning.
No.
Yeah, I think you'll see a bloke giving 110% and trying to win a place in that team. And also doing the stuff he does, like going down if you literally walk past him, stuff like that. He'll be doing that, but I think that's what you'll get from him.
Like, I think that this comment from Phil, if it comes up, I'd agree with that. Like, I wasn't embarrassed by the keepy-uppys, but the whole flick to the nuts and then the 5 seconds before he fell over, that's embarrassing. Like, I have no issue with playing for a foul, because Kane's done that for many years. Lots of players do that. I have no issue with trying to buy things, really, especially when you're trying to run down the clock. But that was embarrassing. At some point, you have to say, look, fair's fair. Yes, you got touched, but don't play on and then decide to fall over. And like falling over, but also like rolling around, trying to really milk it. That I don't like to see. But the keepy-up is, who cares? You can only do it if you're winning the game. That's the part that was annoying to Forest. Forest had played well, very well, and they were losing 2-0 to a side that really hadn't done much. And that was probably the annoying part. The fact that Richarlison is doing it just gave Johnson a chance to take his frustration out on him. But the idea that Richarlison is responsible, no, I'm sorry, no. Like, it's perfectly fine what they're doing.
It's sort of no different, is it? If you're winning a game and you're like a midfielder and your fullback's overlapping and you could just literally knock him in, but you decide to do a back heel or whatever instead. It's just the same as that, isn't it? It's just literally being a little bit more extravagant with what you're doing because you can afford to at that point.
It also, I think, shows the exact opposite in confidence to Son as well. So obviously there are lots of discussions about how Son fits into the game.
Yeah.
And someone who's lacking in confidence and really wants to score and, all of that. And then you've got Richarlison who comes on within minutes. He's had a worldy assist and then he's doing that. And, and that side shows the difference in confidence as well.
150 odd people watching this broadcast. There's only 65 likes. Becky will down a wine if you just get to 100 likes. So
Did Troy like it? Did Troy hit the like button? Do you know?
He's naffed off.
Yeah, I banned him. I banned him. I got a bit bored, to be honest.
You could have at least made him like it before you got rid of him, Gawler.
Well, don't be like Troy. Hit the like button. That's all I can say. Be like Gibbo. Yeah. So we move ahead to West Ham then. Let's talk about that for a few minutes. West Ham, Wednesday night, the Caravan Cup final, as we like to call it. And HG, wax lyrical about how much you hate West Ham for a minute. It's always amusing.
Can we show the clip from Friday's show? Look, everyone knows I don't like West Ham, but it is more to do with the fact that they somehow believe that they're. I mean, weirdly enough, now they almost are at a level, but for many a year they really weren't, and how it matters so much to them. Like they're desperate to be liked/hated enough. So yeah, it's their home cup final. It's the chance we have to really go and just ruin their day, ruin their night, and that's fun. And under floodlights, it's going to be better, right? I mean, evening games tend to work, so I expect a few fireworks, but I just West Ham. It's for the revenue they have. It still surprises me how tin pot their club actually is, because it shouldn't be, right? They have enough money coming in. Like they rent their stadium for a pittance. Right, like I do wonder where their money goes, apart from, what is it, 60 million euros on Paqueta today?
Don't forget their stadium doesn't generate a lot of cash, because
not to them, yeah.
To fill it, they've got to fill it. They have to charge about £30 a ticket, which is nice, but we can get away with charging a lot more, and still fill it. They couldn't, and they don't take anything off food and beverage or anything like that. So I guess their money purely comes from what?
TV, most likely, because the Conference League won't give them much. And then obviously the Europa League run last year gave them quite a bit. But I just, growing up, I never had a problem with West Ham. I never even really considered them, which is probably why I never had a problem with them.
Weren't a thing.
Yeah. And now it's like, okay, kind of like the noisy neighbour quote that Ferguson had about Man City. No one really cares about West Ham. We just like ruining their life.
Yeah. It's a shame in a way that we've got no West Ham fan to come on the show, but it's probably a good thing as well, because it's going to end in tears, isn't it?
We were trying to find a good one, HG, and couldn't get one, so we're not having one. Yeah.
You're not getting Danny Dyer.
We were looking for a good one. Couldn't find one.
If you know a good West Ham fan, put us in touch. We'll get them back for the return leg, but we're not expecting that you will come back with anything. Gibbo, would you change anything in the lineup?
Well, I think I'd play Richarlison. I think he's deserved to start.
Yeah.
I don't, like I said, and if you look at it, it probably will be at the expense of Son. I think Bissouma's going to start, isn't he? Because Bentancur took a knock on the head. I think the big decision will be, if Romero's fit, do you bring him back in? Don't know whether he will or not. Obviously, Sanchez, he probably will. But Sanchez...
He trained today, didn't he? But he didn't say how well training went.
Yeah, so Sanchez has done well. But, last time he did well, he brought Romero straight back in whenever he could. So, I mean, like we talk about... do you think he'll start Emerson again?
I mean, this is the question. So, here's my two questions. So, I've asked you what you think. I'm going to go to Becky next. What do you think Conte will do, Becky?
Well, I think we said about. I think Bentancur has got concussion, so Bissouma will start. I think Romero,
which, by the way, I'm looking forward to seeing, because Bissouma's had very limited minutes so far.
Yeah, and he was quite strong, I thought, yesterday. He made some good interceptions. I know the game was kind of dead, but there was some sort of passages of play where he kind of intercepted it, which we hadn't kind of really seen from Bentancur and Højbjerg too much. I'm not. Going to sit here and be negative about either of those two. I like Bentancur. But yeah, if Romero plays and you've got Richarlison and you've got Bissouma and you've got, a night game and all those bubbles, that's quite a feisty affair. I think if we score early in that game, it could be a cricket score. I don't see West Ham strong. I was listening to it in the garden yesterday, the Villa game, and, I think Villa were equally as poor. West Ham just had a lucky deflection. So I think Spurs should win that quite comfortably. But like you said, the atmosphere and all of that kind of comes into it. But yeah, I think that, that it's tricky because, Sanchez has done well. We've seen that it's 9 hours now that he hasn't conceded a goal, Sanchez. But every time Romero's been fit, he's come straight back in. And, we just don't know whether. Yes.
Who deals with Antonio better, Romero or Sanchez? Because I think Antonio will probably come in, won't he? Because he always does well against us.
Did Romero play against him last time when we played at home? It was towards the end of the season, wasn't it? I can't remember.
I think so.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. And he was very quiet. So, I remember thinking he rarely did anything. There was that bit where he had like one chance, I think, didn't he? And he kind of oofed it over, and then he went off to ironic cheers about 65 minutes. So you kept him quiet. So again, I really don't know.
It's an interesting call for West Ham because Skamaka has done, I think, relatively well, and he offers, being 6'5", he'll offer something that if we do play Romero, we might struggle to deal with because Davies isn't the biggest, Dyer's not the biggest, whereas obviously Sanchez does offer more defensive capability in the air. But Becky's right. I mean, if Romero's fit, he starts. If Bentancur's not fit, Basuma starts. And I think I'm right in saying that West Ham's back three against Villa was Cresswell, I don't know who, and the guy from PSG,
Zuma.
Zuma.
I think Zuma played.
Okay. And so, but looking at Cresswell as a left centre back and Tilo Kehrer as a right centre back, neither of them are the biggest, right? And so, if they're being tasked with marking Son or Richarlison or and Kulusevski, then it might be a good game for Son to actually get the better of his man.
He scores a lot against West Ham, doesn't he?
He
as
does.
Well?
He scored a lot at Upton Park at their ground. I remember the game, the was it Carling Cup, whatever it would have been. He scored a couple there. I don't think Conte's going to change much. I think if he starts changing things, it might be the Fulham game because Marseille and Man City are probably bigger. I think they're the games afterwards. So it's going to be weird because I think when it comes to rotation, you're going to look at maybe 3 players maximum. I don't think he wants to do 5 or 6 or 9 like we saw under Poch. So it'll be an interesting one. But I think that any changes that he makes will be because Romero is back and Bentancur is out. I don't think there'll be anything more than that.
Could Richarlison come in for Kulusevski, do you think? Or do you think it'll be if he comes in, he'll come in for Son?
I think if he comes in, he'll come in for Son. Just
because every time he's done that, he's changed him for Son, hasn't he? If that was in his mind, he would have tried that with Kulusevski, and he hasn't.
Yeah, I mean the Chelsea game. I was looking at this when Richarlison came on at Chelsea. It was for Cess, I think, and we went 4-4-2 and had Son at left wing. So I don't know. I just think that Richarlison down the right doesn't. I don't look at that and think, yes, he can do that. Down the left, fair enough. In the middle, fair enough. But I just think down the right, it's not there. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. But Kulusevski playing quite well.
Alpesh makes a good point here about set pieces are key because we hardly had any yesterday. I think all the corners that we had at the Wolves game, because we were having a discussion about Son was taking the corners and then Perisic was taking them, and then yesterday we didn't have a corner. The whole of the first half, I can't remember one in the second half, and we didn't have many free kicks, which is why people were saying that Perisic had quite a quiet game, but it was a different kind of game. So free kicks and that kind of, because there's going to be a lot of fouls in there. There's going to be.
Would you play Perisic?
I don't know whether he look if he's fit. Yes, I thought he looked a bit leggy yesterday. If he's fit, I would start him. Over Sessegnon. Yeah.
If he's fit, he always starts over Sessegnon. But we're talking about rotation. You've got to rotate at some point, haven't you?
Fulham at home, you could bring Sess in, couldn't you? Hopefully, Perisic is fit and can play, and then you bring Sess in at home if you feel the need. So I'd like to see him start. Yeah.
Okay. So Romero, keep Perisic in.
Basuma's coming in.
Basuma looks like he's coming in.
Yeah.
And then you guys would probably play Richarlison, right?
No, I'd probably.
I'm not sure. I think I would stick with Son as well. HC's saying that same. He's pacier against West Ham. He likes to play West Ham, but equally, I think Richarlison has deserved to start. But it's tricky.
It's a nice problem to have, right? We've got one who's chomping at the bit to come in and looks like he'll do a great job, and we've got another who we know that he can. It just hasn't happened yet. But is Wednesday night the best chance for that to happen? That's the crazy thing. Like with Son, if he's anonymous, he really is anonymous. He doesn't offer a great deal, and he gets frustrated with himself. When we play these games where we don't have much of the ball, and he has those opportunities to run at people, and he doesn't make the most of it, it hurts him. Like you can tell he's annoyed at that. and maybe we are just waiting for that first goal. And
he
if it comes
knows
against
that
West
if
Ham,
he
then
gets
great.
dropped or rotated, his dad will be straight on his case.
He won't give him any supper, will he?
Someone said that the other day. You know the comment that Conte
Send him
made
to
about
bed
how
with no
he was always in his thoughts, and he wanted it was the right type of person for his daughter. Someone put on Twitter today, you imagine having Heung-min dad and Conte as your dad and your father-in-law. They were like, crikey.
That would be psycho. You wouldn't well take your new girlfriend home to meet him, would you? Crikey. This is West Ham so far. Just a tale of woe, really. Losing to City away, I think we all understand that. But then losing to Forest, losing to Brighton.
Like losing to Forest was stupid because Forest goal was a deflection, really, and West Ham had a penalty that they probably should have scored. Losing to Brighton clearly isn't as bad a result as we think it might be because Brighton are doing really well. And I think getting a fluke win at Villa might kickstart them now. But like we know they're capable of beating pretty much anyone. But I don't think Wednesday will be the night. Fingers crossed, anyway.
We know their stats from the Villa game.
That game looked awful. What I've seen of it.
Yeah. I think I saw an XG thing in the first half, and it was 0.01 and 0.15.
Set pieces, as you say, Key. Do you think our new set piece coach was on camera? Actually, they put him up on.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
they put him on camera ahead of a set piece, which then fell flat on its arse, which I thought was humorous. But do you think he's devised a plan so that Zuma is caught napping at the back post, cat napping maybe?
Thanks, Dave.
Ta-da! It's got it in, Dave. There you go. Never say writing the run sheet is a complete waste of time. A few weekend talking points to talk about. So, do you not think Stevie G's job might be under threat soon if Villa continue this poor? He spent an awful lot of money at that club.
Yeah, they booed him off yesterday as well.
All my wife's family are were Villa season ticket holders. They're like my brother-in-law goes all the time now. They packed him, they knocked him on the head. And I was saying to him, I think Gerrard will get a little bit longer, no matter how bad he does, because it's Gerrard. And I think that's the worst thing they could do, because I think you can see other teams maybe getting rid of their managers before, and I'm not saying like Lampard there, but Everton. You got a couple of decent managers waiting in the wings. But they've spent some money though, Villa have. Yeah. They've spent some money and they're still sort of like average. But I think he will be in trouble, but I think he'll probably get a little bit longer than he maybe should.
Brendan wants me to do his dad joke too, so here it is. Sad that Tongi's left. He'd really have got stuck into that midfield of packet of rice. Brilliant. Yeah.
Thanks, Brent.
Sorry, HG, were you about to say something meaningful?
Probably. I usually am. I don't remember.
I think Rodgers is more likely to go before Gerrard. I think I agree with Matt there. I think the Villa fans, the Villa will keep hold of him, but Rodgers and it might even be a situation that he's kind of realising that they are shipping players out and not replacing them.
Yep. Keep Rodgers around. I want him to prove me wrong about how great he is. And,
he's got to deliver a rebuild, hasn't he?
Lampard takes the pressure off Gerrard, doesn't he? Because I think they'll just struggle.
Favourites for the sack race, it's between Lampard, Gerrard, the old England midfield, and Rodgers currently, I think.
Villa have got Leicester in a couple of weeks, I think. I think Villa play City and Arsenal, then they've got Leicester.
Yeah.
So
someone put something on Twitter about how, forgive me, I am one whining now, but it was something like Villa had beaten Leicester and Leicester had beaten West Ham, and it was all this kind of, they're all equally, and I don't know, Everton were involved as well. They're all equally as bad as each other, and they're all just sort of doing each other for keeping one will win over the other, and then the other one win over the other, and it just kind of goes like that.
Yeah, look, this is the question, Craig Harlow, absolutely. Right, any of those teams would sack their manager if they thought they'd get Poch. But do you see Poch going anywhere? I don't see him going to Everton. Certainly not Leicester. Villa, considering they are backed by billions, may well be an option. But no, I can't see that either. So I feel like all three of them are kind of waiting for someone to show up and be like, I'll come and do a better job. If you look at the players that Villa have bought, I think there's some really good players there, individuals, but he can't fashion a team. I don't understand why they went out and spent all the money they did on Diego Carlos. The fact that he's injured, to me, almost helps them. When you look around at Wolves when they got Nathan Collins, who I really quite rate, I think Villa would have got him had they wanted him over Wolves. So it's getting the wrong ones. I think that's the issue. Like Leon Bailey looks quality, but he's rarely played for Villa since he got there. That to me seems a bit weird too. I saw Match of the Day and they talked about Ings and Watkins and who was it, Coutinho. They don't really know where to be or what to do. They were kind of getting into the same areas. Like, to me, that's pretty basic stuff. If you see your players are doing that, you need to. You can't just say you three are good at what you do. Off you go. There's more to it than that. And considering Gerrard did so well at Rangers and took them from where they were to into Europe, I'm a bit surprised that he struggled so much at Villa. But yeah, all three of them. Like what they really want to avoid is Pochettino getting antsy for a job, because otherwise I think they'll stay around.
Adrian's saying there that Poch would go to Chelsea. I'm not sure he'd do that. Not with the way he remembers the
Poch
bridge.
will be angling. What Poch will be hoping for is for Conte to go at some point in the near future and come back to Spurs. I think with Pochettino, what people fail to realise is that ultimately he achieved very little at Spurs. He did, and I know I'm going to encourage the hatred and all the rest of it, but he's not an elite. The reason I'm saying this is because I'm referring to this one.
Oh, sorry, mate.
You tool.
Sorry.
This one. Poch Real.
You see, I see it in here. I just drink my wine. You see, don't press the buttons.
Hands free.
Yeah.
Poch Real. It's not going to happen because Poch is not an elite coach. He's not seen as an elite coach. He's not a Tuchel. He's not a Conte. He's not a Klopp. And he's definitely not the dude at Man City. So
I have seen a lot of comments from PSG fans about how the new guy there has come in and kind of got them working better as a unit.
This I can see, by the way.
Yeah, I could see that too. But Eddie Howe's doing a really good job. Yeah. I mean, the thing for Poch is like the clubs that might well want him at some point are doing pretty well. Like Real Madrid won the Champions League. If you're looking in England, it's Man United who just signed someone and Newcastle who are doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Where else are you looking?
Yeah.
He doesn't seem keen on German football. And again, Bayern are set, Dortmund are set because they got a new guy in.
Well, in rush though, he's probably not in a rush. Let's be honest.
Maybe he's waiting for the England job.
Well, he won't have to wait long, hopefully.
I mean, that's who.
Then we'll get all the Spurs players back in it.
That's who I want to see in charge of England or Spurs. Potter.
Honestly, I'd allow the whole Football Manager. Like, you can work for Brighton the whole season and then just come and do the England job. Yeah. I'd totally settle for that because Potter, wherever Potter goes when he leaves Brighton, I'd like to see him go abroad. Weirdly, I don't think one of the big jobs in England is going to be available for him quick enough, but maybe something else would be, and he might go to a Sevilla. Right, I think if he went to Sevilla, he'd do great there. So it's an interesting one with Potter.
Wherever he goes. I've always rated Potter. Right back to when we were talking about who's going to be the next Spurs manager after Mourinho left.
I championed Potter for ages. I used to get some right hammer on that Slack group.
I used to get
pelters for Potter.
Hashtag.
I've always been Potter in.
Yeah, I would have taken Potter all day long.
But that comment that I was going to show you before, apparently Potter is, I'm not saying that will make him go there, but Potter's a Villa fan. Is he? I think he might be from around that area.
He's from the.
They've got they've got a bit of money behind them. And if Nuneaton,
where HG?
Sorry,
where did you say he's from?
Nuneaton.
Is he?
Yeah.
Poor guy.
You live close to there, don't you, Caller?
Nowhere near. It's weird in there. Yeah.
But they've got some money behind them, Villa, so they could maybe be willing to pay the money for him to get him away from Brighton.
I think that every Premier League has got big money behind them, haven't they? That it's.
Well, they said before before Conte, they were like Spurs wouldn't pay the money to release Potter, didn't they? I mean, it doesn't matter.
I don't think we ever wanted him, to be honest. That's all.
I think it's interesting that wherever Potter goes, having done so well at Brighton and found all these young players from all over the world and to kind of coach them up to be a really good side, that there's always going to be that question of like, can he do it with bigger players, with bigger names?
Like David Moyes, when David Moyes went to United.
Yeah, a little bit. Like I think Potter's more than capable, but I just think that some clubs might look at that and think, I don't know. Like you look at Man United when they had the choices that they did. Like we all knew Pochettino was going to go out. Like they had the chance to get Conte and they didn't, and they went for Ten Hag. Who? Why? What made them pick him? Is be an interesting question. Or more importantly, what made them avoid the other options, the ones that had proven it at a higher level? So wherever Potter goes next, it will be interesting, and I don't know if one of the big jobs will be available quick enough.
He might just wait it out a long time though, HG.
Because he's only 47.
Yeah, he's really
like
quite young for a football manager. He could stay for Brighton for 3 years. Yeah.
And to be fair to him, if they have another good season and they improve and he got them into some sort of European football, even if it was the Conference League, don't blame him for having a crack at that with a team like Brighton, do you? Right. So maybe he could do that.
He did the Europa League with that Swedish team.
Yeah.
So, he's clearly, we all know, when it comes to English managers, there aren't usually that many that have proven themselves. The ones that get the big jobs are the ones that were decent, that were good players. Lampard and Gerrard and all the rest. John Terry, if he goes into management, won't want to start at League One. Yeah, they'll want to do something else.
Phil Neville.
Potter has literally worked his way up to where he is, and whatever the next step is, which I'm sure he knows. He has. But if he's a Villa fan, I could see it happening. But then I would wonder, why didn't they go for him when they took Gerrard?
Yeah.
That's the thing, because if he's interested now,
a lot of these people chase names, though, don't they? Gerrard is a name. Potter is not a sexier name. That's sometimes it isn't simple as that. Yeah, I know. I can see it. You can see it, but I think that's the way people think sometimes. It's the way our fans think.
Yeah.
Mention Daniel James.
No, thank you.
No.
Exactly. My point is completely the case for the prosecution rests.
Daniel James is the Steven Gerrard of attacking midfielders. Is that where we are now?
No, he's the Potter, criminally underrated. I'm contractually obliged to say, HG, do you think there will be a Van der Vaart signing on deadline day this year?
Yes.
I
mean, as in, not.
Is this
not
just
as in
to tease our show?
No, not as in completely out of the blue, like someone who we don't know or someone
we know.
Well,
to be fair, we've listed this summer about 1 million players, so for it to be someone completely unheard of would be quite impressive, wouldn't it? We've mentioned so many.
Maybe we can do a spreadsheet of players. How many players we're linked with across a window?
Maybe we could convince Depay, because he's going to go somewhere, and I don't think it's happened yet. So, it'll be a player that everyone knows is available, and maybe Spurs will be like, okay, we want to do this, and the player's thinking, well, this is my best option, and it'll be a loan. I don't see us going out and spending money on the last day, like we did with Van der Vaart. But I do think we're going to have. I want two, but certainly at least one.
Where do you want? Do you want two attackers, or? Yeah. I don't think we'll get a centre back if we're keeping Tanganga, will we?
No, I want two attackers.
Keeping Tanganga, and then Saha obviously has been taken off the loan.
If it's Malinovsky and Depay, I'll be happy.
Yeah, because you're attacking forward, you're putting forward intent into the squad, aren't you? And that's ultimately where we're a bit light. I think we're a bit. I mean, for me, the thing is we're still light at centre back. We haven't addressed any kind of backup for Dyer. We're keeping Tanganga as that. It's going to hold us back if there's a serious injury.
I think if Dyer goes down, right, who plays in the middle, Sanchez or Romero?
Sanchez.
Probably Sanchez. I mean, that would be more logical to me. But maybe Longley comes in.
Yeah.
Plays at centre. So I think because Longley can play two, and Romero can play two, and Sanchez, we've seen him play in the middle as well as on the right side. like it's not a massive issue. Like Tanganga clearly looks decent. I mean, we all saw the video, the training video, the one-on-one against Son. But if Tanganga is staying, I don't see us going there. But again, look at our bench yesterday. Like it's not good enough that Brian Hill's on his way out anyway, and Lucas is injured. But the thing is, if Lucas is injured and we're left with one attacking option, that's not good enough for a club.
A lot of people made that point yesterday, didn't they? That the bench there was really no attacking options at all really on the bench yesterday. And
we're going to need it. I genuinely think, like, as much as I'm not sure that Kulusevski or Son or Kane are going to get injured, but I think we need depth there. And if Brian Hill isn't necessarily trusted, and I don't rate Lucas. So to me, there is part that I want to, for that reason more than anything. But we clearly need options. Like you can have 12 subs on a Champions League bench, and if we do that right now, we've got one attacker. That's crazy. That can't be allowed. Not Forest had 3 attackers, 4 attackers. Like they're not great players, but
they've got cover, haven't they?
They had options. They had Surridge. They had Awuniyi. I don't know how to say it. They had options off the bench to play a central striker or to have attacking options, and Spurs don't. And that to me is criminal. No big side does that.
We've had a good window, haven't we? Because we've obviously improved our squad. But I think you can't do it over one window. But I think there is still work to be done. We can still. I'm not saying, but I think we could do with some more players that will really challenge our first 11 players. I don't think we've done that. And I think Perisic.
Conte referred to it, didn't he? He said it's going to take at least 2 windows.
But this is the second.
Yeah. I'm with HG. I think Depay's Memphis is a decent player, and I think there will be quite a few players who will just wait until the last day or the day before to get moved. So there'll be players we probably haven't even spoke about.
Yeah, we haven't really mentioned any homegrown players, have we? So like Maddison or.
That's true. If Reggie goes, I said this on Friday, if Reggie goes, we've got 3 spots in the Premier League squad for foreigners over 21. So the Ukrainian centre-back I've seen mentioned in the comments, obviously he's under 21, so that wouldn't matter for that, but it would make things difficult for the Champions League. The homegrown quota, like if Reggie goes, we'll have 14 foreigners over 21. So we've got 3 spots available. Champions League is a different animal, and we'll have to make decisions there. But for the Premier League, if it's loans, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Like I was surprised that Juventus went for Milik instead of Depay. Like, I'm sorry, Milik, who? Why? I don't get that. Depay to me has shown it, not just at Barcelona. I realize he failed at Man United, but to me that was more down to Van Gaal than anything else. But there are good players out there, and Barcelona probably have a lot of them who need to get out of the club. Aubameyang will go somewhere else, I think. I don't want him at Spurs, but there are going to be players there who will be available, and maybe Spurs won't be somewhere that they really want to go, but it might be the best available option, so they do it for a year, and then we worry about it again next season.
We're more attractive than we used to be, though, aren't we? And I think
Conte quote from this week, by the way. I think he's referring to 2 summer transfer windows because you are quite limited in the January one.
The January one is going to be weird this year, isn't it? Because it's kind of straight after the World Cup. Well, after the World Cup, isn't it? Doing a transfer window with half of them being, resting or whatever it is. The one in January would be a bit weird this year.
I think you have to look at if I was... here's the question. I'm going to ask you all this. Rate our window out of 10. Dave's had his say, but he is a bit of a pessimist. 6 out of 10. I think it's a bit better than that, personally. But what I look for in a window is we upgrade the first 11. And we've upgraded the first 11 by 3 players, right?
Who are they?
One.
Richarlison and actually 4. Perisic and Longley are all better than what we had or as good as.
Oh, you mean better than the players that have gone?
Better than they improved the first 11 is what I.
Longley's played 3 minutes. So who
yes,
is he?
But Longley has the quality to improve the first. I think he's a better player to me, this is how I rank it. You can obviously decide what you like. Longley, in my opinion, is a better player than Davis. Therefore, he enhances our first 11. Perisic is better than what we had at left back. Richarlison is as good as a rotation option as what we've got up top, which also improves our first 11, depending on who we're playing. And Basuma is better than any midfielder we've got. That's my view. So I would say that it's a strong 7. You're not going to fix everything in one window unless you go and monkey hundreds. And look, already, yes, he is. He's a much better player. Longley, Dave Harris, yes, just like your run sheet. I'm
having Perisic, mate. I'll have that. I think Perisic has improved our first 11. Basuma, probably, if get fully fit and playing.
He's better than the crab, isn't he? Come on.
And then I can't say about Langley, but I don't think Richarlison's better than.
No, he's as good as. He gives you as good a rotation option.
So that's not better in the first 11, though, is it? He is a vastly improvement on our rotation options, but not the first 11.
Well, hang on a minute. Hang on. So far,
Gibbo's right. Gibbo's right.
No, he's not. So far, you sat there for the first 10 minutes of the show telling me Son should be rotated for Richarlison.
Yes, but
there you go then.
No.
Right,
I'm talking about. Hang on, I'm talking about if Son's bang at it, Kulusevski's bang at it, Kane's bang at it, and Richarlison is. He's not improving that first 11
right now. So right now he'd improve it. Right now.
Right, yeah, okay, I can't be bothered to argue. So yeah, you can have that. But I'm saying 2.
This comment's good, isn't it?
You don't know about Longley because you've not seen him play yet. So
this person here is having like the upgrades of what we had. So Forster being better than Galini and Richarlison better than Bergwijn and Perisic being so that
the squad is undoubtedly better.
Good.
No, I'd agree with that, but we do need a few more. And again, go on.
It's your say now, mate. Go for it. How many improved the first 11? What would you rate the window out of 10?
Perisic is definitely better than Cess. Basuma, I like Basuma, but I find it very difficult that if he was that much better than what we've got, he would have played in the same way that Kulusevski did, in the same way that Romero did. So, I love Basuma. I think he's a great signing, but I think it might be a stretch to say he's better than the team that were, the midfielders that were doing so well at the end of last season. Longley, better than Davies. I mean, I just don't think you can say that. I really don't. Davies has come in and done a really good job at left centre back. Longley has come in and played 4 minutes. If you want to talk about,
he'll have time.
Yeah, but again, you're talking about now. If we have this conversation in 6 months, we will have a different answer most likely. But you can't look at Longley, what he did at Barcelona in those last couple of years, and say he's better than Davies. You can't.
But you can look at what he did earlier in his career, can't you?
Well, yeah. Dele Alli was great 4 seasons ago. Let's talk about him. I mean, 4 seasons ago doesn't mean anything for now.
Side. I think that's unfair. But we'll see. We'll see. Time will tell whether I'm right, which I will be. There we go. So out of 10, HG?
8. I'm happy. I'm happy with what we've done. I don't look at any of our players and think, I wish we hadn't done it. Right, and that's a pretty good thing. 8. But for it to be a 10, I want us to have a stronger squad. I said on Friday that I think we might be missing a central midfielder. Because now, Skip has been out, and if Bentancur's got concussion, we're down to 2.
Now, by the way, for the weekend, that's an option we've overlooked. It might not be Basuma, it might be Skip coming into midfield.
No,
doubtful.
You know that's not going to happen.
Would you go out and get another central midfielder?
That's Skip. That's Skip saying, "Oi, don't be bad mouthing me."
In the cupboard.
Something's going on outside. I don't know what it was. That's weird.
Would you go and get another central midfielder if possible?
Yeah, I would.
100%.
An
attacking one, I would go after an attack. My view. I think we need cover for Kulu, who can play in midfield as well. That's what I'd be looking out for. I'd love another forward, but I know we're not going to get one, so I'm just resigned to not having that. I think we need a centre back, and I think we need a right wing back. But I know we're not going to get all of those.
But if you do those things, then we'll be letting people go, right? Like I'm thinking, like in adding to what we have. If we've got those 3 spots available in the Premier League squad, I'd be looking at a central midfielder and 2 attackers.
Yeah.
And what sort of central midfielder would you be looking at? Because I'll tell you what I really like, and I think he's gettable, but we might have left it a bit late. Ruben Neves from Wolves.
Oh, what a player. What a player. 60 million they want for him, by the way.
He can ping a ball, he can defend,
Brilliant player.
Get up and down the pitch.
Yep, would love him. Not going to happen.
No.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't
He's
argue.
their star man.
But it's like you want someone who, I mean, how am I thinking about it? Like, for example, there's a guy at Fiorentina who you've probably you've never heard of this guy. His name is Gaetano Castrovilli.
Oh yeah, I know.
And he's the number 10 there, and he's a running 10. Like he's all over the pitch. And so I feel like if you're that kind of midfielder, like you know how Maddison does that, but he's always looking for a bit of space. He's always looking to try and create. Castrovilli's not that kind of attacking midfielder. He runs into space and he makes defenders have decisions to make. That would be somewhere that I might be thinking a player like that. But I mean, Castrovilli's not going to sign for Spurs. I get that, but I think that's what I want. I want a more mobile midfielder because Bissouma is comfortable on the ball, and Bentancur is comfortable on the ball, and Skip and Højbjerg are I think, are pretty combative. But none of them look comfortable when running at full speed. That's kind of what I want. I want a more athletic, but also technically good centre midfielder.
I can't remember where it was now, and somebody was talking about Verratti. Obviously, we're not going to be able to get him. They were talking about that's the sort of midfielder we want because he can do it all, and he sort of like controls what his team are doing. And I don't feel that's what we've got. I think the top teams have a midfielder in there who sort of like, I think Rodri does it for Man City, who gets hold of the ball and starts dictating. We don't really do that, do we? We haven't got anybody who can do that, but who can also move up the pitch and run with the ball a little bit. And that's the sort of midfielder I'd like to see.
If you feel at Conte's old interside, Barella is that kind of midfielder where, like, I think he's comfortable if you play centre midfield, but actually what he wants to do is join the attack at every opportunity. And I think that if you were playing defensive fullbacks and you were willing to allow someone from midfield to run forward and join the attacks, then that could happen. But it's not easy to find those players because the ones we're thinking of are all very, very good and wanted where they are currently.
If we play in a 2, I feel we need more energy. The 2 we've got been done. If you're playing with a 2, I think over the course of the season we're going to need a bit more energy in there than the 2 that we've got.
Can I say Conrad Lima now? Like everyone knows I love Conrad Lima.
Yeah.
I saw him linked with Liverpool today and he'd be a perfect fit for them. So I really don't want that to happen. But the guy can run and run and run and he is fast. And again, it just like, if I'm playing against Bissouma or Bentancur or Højbjerg, like, they're all very neat and tidy, but I don't worry about them getting beyond me. I don't worry about them making runs into the box. And I think that's what we need. The system that we play doesn't really allow for an attacking midfielder, the number 10 that we all talk about. Kulusevski
you need all action.
Kulusevski has played those passes. Malinovsky could come in and do that as well. But I think we need someone with a bit more energy, as you said, who will run and run and run, but is also actually good on the ball.
Like an all-action midfielder.
Yeah. Old school box to box. Absolutely. Up and down the pitch. Our midfielders don't do that. There was one time yesterday, I mean, Højbjerg was blowing, and it was probably like 70 minutes, 75 minutes, and he was blowing to get back. And like that can't be happening. Like we need to have a bit more of an engine, I think.
Do you think Tielemans could do that?
No.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. That's after a Conte pre-season as well. Do you know what I mean?
I said this on Friday, like, if Liverpool want to upgrade their midfield, which I think they need to, you bring Tielemans in to do what Thiago does, and you bring Lima in to do what Henderson does, and that's it. They'll do it. Like, I'm not saying Tielemans is at the level of Thiago because he's not, but Wijnaldum was a Champions League winning midfielder in that system. The midfielders at Liverpool don't have to do a great deal, really, apart from recycle it, because the front three was so good. I just think that they could, that would sort Liverpool out, and it wouldn't cost them a fortune. And again, Tielemans is still quite young, 25, I think. Lima's 25. That would be horrific. But like everyone knows, I love Comrade Lima, so I'd love to see it. I really would.
You've never mentioned it before, so I was completely unaware. Yeah, just a reminder: do hit that subscribe button and turn the notifications on while you're here, and make sure you hit that like button as well. What were you going to say, HG? I know there was I could see a comeback coming back.
No, I mean not really. I just like this is a very good point here. I like to use comments for number 6. Well, we've talked before on previous shows about like with your midfielders, are they a 6 or are they an 8 or are they a 10? And that the best midfield threes tend to have one of each, right? That Fabinho is the 6 who wants to sit, and Thiago is the 8 who wants to pass, or Henderson is the 8 who's more box to box, and Thiago is more of a passer. The Wolves have the similar midfield with Dendoncker and Neves and Moutinho, like that one of each. And you look at Højbjerg, and I think Højbjerg and Skip are pretty similar, and I think Bentancur and Bissouma are pretty similar, but we need that kind of 8/10 combination. We need that desperately, and a bit more energy.
Okay. Here's what we've spent so far in the window. As you can see, we're at a net spend of 73 million, which is right up there with Wolves. And I know, I think Man United's figure's about to be. I mean, they're going to stick 100 million on that, aren't they? So 218 million.
Where's Man United on there? Oh, yeah, 4th. Okay,
which is amazing, really. Yeah. So here's the question, because we often get accused on the cheese room of being pro-Levy and all of that nonsense. So it's a shame Dave's not here, actually, because he'd really enjoy going off on a tangent for about 25 minutes. Have we been had 150 million investment plus player sales, which I think we sold, one player, 30 million odd. There's money to spend, isn't there, Gibbo?
Apparently so, but we've got they put in the Romero money into it as well, because that deal hasn't gone through yet, has it? So have we been had? I'm not sure. I didn't really
spent by Forest.
Yeah, well, but we get
Forest
outspent.
are trying to stay in the league, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they said that themselves yesterday, that they are trying to stay in the league. That's why they're buying all those players.
I mean, I find it. Yeah, I agree with you, Beck. I find it difficult. Man United, if in doubt, spend a few quid. That's what they do. Chelsea always spend.
Yeah.
Chelsea always spend. They've sold players and they need to get them in. Arsenal have obviously spent, but we never spend as much as a lot of teams, do we? I mean, we got accused of being happy clappers on Saturday, didn't we? I don't know why that is, but
it's because there's a lot of bellends in the world.
But yeah, but it's just we've spent 70 odd million. Could we expect? Yeah, I think we could spend more. We could go and try buy some bigger players, but it was what we do, isn't it? Transfer window isn't over yet, but I never thought we would ever go out and just splash 150 million and go and buy Bastoni and buy whoever else for 50 million.
The thing is, I'm just gonna cut in and say, I think the problem is we would buy players and spend more money if the players we wanted were available. I don't think there'd be any problem spending 55 million or whatever on Bastoni. I think the money's there. It's just he didn't want to come.
Yeah. And I mean, we could have. I look at it. Would you have took Koulibaly, who's gone to Chelsea?
I don't think.
Or do you think that's just a race? Even if we went from, do you think it's a race we would never even win?
Well, it's about whether you want. Koulibaly's not as good a player. He was never a target. So the thing is, what we like to do, what generally Spurs fans like to do, is draw comparisons from our rivals, Chelsea, Man United, etc. And go, well, why aren't we doing that? Well, they're not necessarily the players we want.
No, I mean, I think. Sorry, HG. I think we wanted. It's appeared very obvious that we wanted somebody like Bastoni or Gvardiol was that they seemed like the two. If they would have come, I think we would have splashed money on them.
Yeah.
And you know,
the thing that I find strange is why announce that they drew down that money if
You
they
had
then
to.
weren't going
You
to
had
do
to announce
something
it.
about it.
Because you have to declare it to the.
But why do it then if they're not going to do anything with it? Why didn't they just leave it where it was?
Well, they have. We've still spent 73 million plus. Romero's going to go through it.
That has to happen. Surely that has to happen this week, right? The Romero
I think
thing.
it's this week, yeah, and that's 45 million. So straight away,
as awful as it sounds, though, 110 million when all the other teams who we're sort of chasing or sort of around are spending more, isn't it?
West Ham spending nearly 200 million.
It's not,
Scary.
you know, it's not massive, is it? It's not. It is what it is, though. It's Spurs, and that's what we never really splash a load of massive amounts of money, do we? So
well, we had to. The problem is when you do that kind of a share deal, you have to declare it. So there always had to be a press statement, and people are always going to cling to the press statement.
But yeah, but so I mean, why do it then if you're not going to then utilise that money unless it has already been sorted? Like Paul's just put there, maybe it was for off-field things as well.
Well,
can we not just give Harry Kane 400 grand a week?
That might be part of it, mate.
Somebody asked him yesterday. I know it was Sherwood on the Premier League TV. They had an interview with him after the game, and they asked him, and he said, "Yeah, you'll beat Sherwood, but it'll take you 3.5 seasons." And he goes, but you need to sign first. And he didn't make any face. He didn't laugh. He was very sort of kind of, I was like really like looking in and going.
Did he say, yeah, obviously?
Exactly. There was no reaction. And he didn't say, yeah, obviously. And I was like, damn it. Sherwood was trying his best to get him to say, yeah, it's fine. I'll sign and then I will reach it. Been well trained in that question.
If you said to me at the start of the summer, do you want Neves for 60 million or Bissouma for 25 plus add-ons, right? I don't think there's much of a difference in quality. I think Bissouma has done more in the Premier League than Neves. Neves is again not a terrible player, but you give that chops. You pick Bissouma. There's a reason why Spurs made that deal when they did, because they thought it was a good one to do. I do feel as if we are still like Koulibaly was never an option for me. I think had we wanted him, he may have considered it because we've got Antonio Conte, and anyone who's played in Italy knows how successful he is. So I don't think that Spurs per se are the problem. I think that, as you talked about, Caller, that Bastoni just didn't want to leave Italy. He's still quite young. Leipzig don't need to sell Guardiola. And in that case, do we do what Liverpool did, where you wait a year and get Van Dijk for the money for it, because that's the one you want? Spurs could go out and sign someone to play that role, and maybe a year later think, okay, well, that was a waste of money. We're going to lose, whatever million on it. Or you can get someone in on loan who you think will do that job anyway. So it's an interesting one because I understand the desire to spend money, but it's got to be on the right people. Yeah,
if we're doing it, I mean, sorry, Becky, you carry on.
I was just going to say, I would say, since Paratici's come in, he has done that, hasn't he? We've all said that this many a times. It's not about like Man United do and splash this amount of money on people that, years time they'll be begging to leave. Is the people they've brought in have been reasonably sensible amounts of money, young players, strong players, tall players that Conte can kind of mould, and that's why it's so difficult to predict who we or if we will bring in, because like we said, Paratici has so many different options that he looks for, but also they're players that we, may not have heard of because they're younger players or they're sort of fringe players or they've not done particularly well in their own leagues. And that's why, the next sort of 4 or 5 days is quite exciting. But like I said before, the fact that the money was drawn down assumes that it is, there's 20, 25 million, maybe 30, 40 million in there still, even with Romero, that will be purchased on somebody, you would hope. Because we're not making any money from selling anybody. That's fairly clear all summer. We haven't really made any money off anybody that's gone.
I don't think we're scratting round, Beck. I don't think we're scratching round for players. I think probably the reason we haven't spent that money is because there probably is a clear plan of the sort of players we want and who we're looking at. And like it'll probably seem like we're scratting around the last few days, but we're probably fairly in control of the situation.
Everyone that signed has sort of said, haven't they, that they were aware of signing a long time ago. Because I remember Perisic saying something, and obviously Spence went on forever, and I think Bissouma's was fairly, they all seem to know, don't they? So it's quite interesting to see.
What I think is interesting, like back in January when we signed Kulusevski, right? Like obviously there were a few of us, like me, who was all over Kulusevski, who loved him. But if you'd have said, if that hadn't have been a loan to buy later, and we'd spent 35 million on a Juventus reserve, you know that everyone screaming, go and spend money, would have decried that deal as being, why are we spending so much money on another team's reject? Both Bentancur and Kulusevski got that. And within, 4 games, everyone loved them. So it's a crazy thing. You want the right player. The fact that we haven't actually bought Romero yet, and that we haven't actually bought Kulusevski yet, okay, but we know we're going to do it, and we're happy to do it because we know they're good enough. We're not worried about the price tag. But Spurs still have to be they want to be a bit crafty. We are not going to be, especially after what happened with Ndombele, we are not going to be the type of team that goes out and spends that much money on someone that we're not certain of. We're just not going to do it.
100%. Because, and this is the thing, like, when you look at what teams are playing, there's some big punts out there, isn't there? I mean, United have spent 60 million on a 5'9" centre-back. Would you be happy if we did that?
No.
Nor would I. Nor would I. Chelsea,
400 million on the guy that wanted to leave, didn't he? And made a big fuss about leaving. And I was saying, well, in a year's, 2 years' time, he'd be doing the same thing. He'd be wanting to leave. He'd be like looking at Ronaldo and making a fuss.
So I put that comment up not to cover your face, Becky. Sorry about that. It wasn't the plan. But yeah, Paul's right. Longley on loan means that next summer we want to go and spend a lot of money on someone who may well be more available. And weirdly enough, I'm not sure Bastoni will be the one. I have a feeling it will be the Leipzig guy.
Guardiola.
And so
Guardiola.
Guardiola. I think he's much more likely to want to make the jump than Bastoni is. Despite Conte being around, I just think Bastoni, if he's playing for the team he wants to play for and he's making good money and he's young enough that he's not looking to make that jump, then you need to find someone with perhaps a bit more ambition to make the jump. I mean, that's not to diminish Inter, but it's just if you want to play for Spurs, you have to want it. If you don't want it, then we haven't got long enough to wait around for you.
No, I think you're right. I think it's about adding quality to the mix. So I don't think we've been had. I think it's just a case of it's about signing the right players, and they're not always available. The thing that frustrates me, and this, I'll say no more on the matter, but when you read a lot of the social media stuff, you're talking about people who are making these comments know absolutely nothing about football or football finance, or the inner workings of a football club, but have played a few seasons on Football Manager and think they know everything. And it's not their money they're spunking up the wall, is it? They're just, and you have to bear those things in. A reasonable fan bears those things in mind, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the young Ukrainian kid, Zabanyi, right? I mean, he's not played many senior games. He's played a lot of games for Ukraine, weirdly, but he's not that experienced. But if he's coming from, I don't know, is it Dynamo Kiev where he is now?
Yeah,
if he's coming from there and he's moving to London, like again, at 19, 20 years of age, I don't care how much money you've got. That's a massive move. Like, I've been really impressed, weirdly, with the Wolf signings at how good their English is. Right? Like, I don't know why that surprises me, but you expect there to be a much bigger, what's the word I'm looking for? Adaptation. But if Zabanyi doesn't speak the language like Ndombele didn't, that hurts things. It really does. Like Son, when he came to Spurs, had learned English at school in Germany, so his English was all right. That is a massive part of it. The fact that you earn a fortune doesn't help. It really doesn't. And again, I've lived abroad. I know what it's like to go somewhere where you don't know anyone, and you have to make a life for yourself. Yes, you've got the people you work with, but are we all friends with all the people we work with instantly? No, it's a massive deal. So it is tough to find the right player.
Absolutely. Good. Well, we'll be going an hour and 53 minutes. I'm tired. I need my bed, so as I'm sure you all do. Thanks for joining me. We're going to be back on Thursday, Gibbo.
Well, we hope. Yeah, we're trying to organise it at the minute. Get bodies and stuff. See what we can do. See if we can do a little bit with the end of the transfer window. So, yeah.
Yes, we are going to be back Thursday with the transfer show. Details to come on that. And of course, we're back on Friday night. We'll be both celebrating 3 points over West Ham, hopefully. And looking forward to the weekend against Fulham. Gibbo, thanks as ever for joining me.
No, mate, loved it. Great show tonight. Loads to talk about.
Live.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Putting ourselves out there. Yeah, good show, mate. Good discussion. Really enjoyed it.
Good man. HG, as ever, thanks very much. Don't know what the German is for that, but yeah,
Thanks.
Danke.
Oh, very much. Dankeschön. No, look, I always love Spurs. Spurs is my hobby. It's my life outside of my work and my family. So to talk about Spurs is great. Thanks.
Yeah, same.
And Becky, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. I'm at Fulham, so it's the first game I've been without.
It's a good endorsement if ever you needed one.
Oh, nice.
Well, hit the like button, mate. And
but based on the comments, he's a bit behind. I think he's still angry at the fact that he thinks that we were slamming Son for not being very good.
Yeah.
He hasn't been very good. Let's face it.
But yeah, so
anyway.
I'm at the Fulham game without Jack, so we're having a few beers and staying over and having a bit of sesh, which I don't normally do because I normally drive home. So that'd be quite fun. But yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
On a sesh in London town. There you go. Yeah. Good. Well,
on the alcohol before school starts, Becky, there is something on this.
And that's what I mean. It was like school.
Getting into it. Right. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.